Okay, so you'll definitely need a strap, or something like strap-esque. You could use a belt, you could use a scarf, you could use a jumper, if you haven't sort of got anything to hand. Maybe a couple of blocks or some cushions or pillows. So it'll be a very kind of gentle, restful practice, perhaps what most of us need as we head towards winter solstice, which isn't today, it's in a couple of days' time. And we're going to start in a seated position. You're welcome to use a wall if you want to, for this, or, for any bits of the practice where you feel you need a bit of support. If you feel like, actually, do you know what? I'm just really tired and out of energy, then maybe you just lie down now. You can sort of adapt the shapes that we'll go through seated in a lay down position. So whatever works for you. I'm sitting cross-legged. You could sit cross-legged, kneeling, legs extended. However you feel, it's going to be good for you for a little bit of time. So, I mean, that in itself is a bit of a challenge, just sitting still, is for me anyway. And maybe you just start to close down the eyes. So there's a little bit of length through your spine. It's traveling up through the crown of the head, out of the crown of the head, up towards the night sky. And the energy back down is a softness of the face, of the shoulders, and of the seat into the earth. So we take the first couple of moments to just arrive, to let go of whatever's happened today, whether, it's been a joyful day or whether you feel like you've had a challenging day. We'll just put that to one side and move into now. This is what's happening now. This seat that you're sitting in, each breath that you take, each thought that maybe pops in and out of the mind. Maybe there's loads and loads and loads fighting for your attention. Maybe it's more spacious. So there's no right or wrong. There's no pressure. If you feel that you just want to sit or you want to lie down for an hour, this is your space. So you use it as you feel works for you. And as part of our arrival and check-in, I'm just checking with the physical body. So that could be the whole of the body, that might be parts or areas of your body. That might be if you have any little niggles or injuries. So we always have our check-in without being judgmental and without kind of being discompassionate to ourselves. We're just curious. How do I physically feel? How do you emotionally feel? So you could put that to, kind of mental health. Yoga for me is probably a bigger thing for my mental health than it is for my physical health. It used to be the opposite way around, but things shift. So, if you could look in a mirror and speak to yourself, how do I feel in my mind? What's going on with me emotionally? Without judging, being kind, and knowing that it's a safe space. So no one's asking you to tell anybody about this. Of course, at the end, if you do want to have a chat, I'm not a psychotherapist or a psychologist, but I'm a friend. And energetically, so that could be like a culmination of physical and emotional, or that could mean something else to you. Energetically, how do you feel? No right or wrong answer. And it's funny because winter is the time of rest, right? The deepest time of year. But I think most people feel most exhausted after you leave autumn, come into winter, especially if you celebrate Christmas. There's lots to do, lots of demands, pressure that we put on ourselves, kind of trying to wrap everything up, literally and otherwise. So it's okay if you do feel energetically. I feel quite like energetically, oh, can I have some time off? And things that, teaching gives me energy, but also, of course, there's energy that's put into it. So it's okay if something that we love is both sides of this. So it's an energy giver, but it also takes some form of energy from us. And maybe that's check in if you're comfortable that you do every day. So you could do it in the morning, you could do it in the evening, or both. Could be as part of journaling. I tell myself every year that I'm going to keep up my journaling practice. And I'm not a resolution person, so I won't make it a resolution. But let's sit here together next year, see how I got on with my journaling. So just gently blinking the eyes open, but you can have your eyes closed for as much or as little as you want of this. If you want to change position or just have a little wiggle, you actually, can do that now. And we're going to get a little bit of energy moving. Like, if you practice with me regularly, which most of you do, my form of energy moving is not like that energy. So don't worry about that. So your comfortable position, whatever it is, as we breathe in, we're just going to sweep the arms up. You might join the palms. You might even draw the thumbs back slightly to open the heart space. And as you breathe out, just lengthen through the spine, bring the hands to the heart. So a couple like that in whatever way works for you. And with this, notice how the breath is feeling. So hopefully we've had that kind of moment of arriving and settling. So the breath has started to come into our rest and digest breath. So somewhere where we're safe, we're calm. And then let's take it into a lateral stretch. So you could absolutely use a block or a cushion. Remember, a lot of yoga depends on the length of your limbs, the shape of your body. It's not good or bad. So just leaning into one side, lifting up and over with the opposite side. And we draw that elbow back on the lifted arm as well. You could look down, you could look ahead, you could look up. So just be mindful of the neck. Keep the knees soft. Let's breathe here. Deep breath in through the nose if you can, down into the belly. And a deep breath out, could be nose or mouth, that comes from belly, travels up and out. And the inhale is for a little bit of space, maybe for a movement or a shift. And exhale, just to soften into space. Gently come all the way back up. And let's switch sides. So you might feel, even just from that, like a little rush of blood down the arm that you lifted above the head. Again, just that steady breath. If it feels like it's quite a lot, you can always draw the elbow back and just rest the hand behind the head or on the head. And again, we're curious. So there isn't a right, there isn't a wrong. The only thing I would say is wrong, but not a fan of that word, is if you're feeling pain. So we draw back away from something. Let's come all the way back up, just nice and slowly. And then turn to right or left, doesn't matter which. and find your twist. So again, you might use a block or a cushion for that backhand. Rather than lean into it, we push into it and lift the spine slightly. Still softening into the knees. The face, the chin, the neck is definitely relaxed. Take a breath in that twist. As you breathe out, we just gently turn back to center. Maybe a breath in there, sitting nice and tall. And as you breathe out, just take it in the opposite direction. And you might notice that one side feels like it's more open. It has a little bit more ease, but that's with no judgment. That's just being curious. Taking a breath in, and as you breathe out, come back to center. So stay tall with the spine. Again, if you want to, you could momentarily just take the legs out, have a little shuffle. If you want to change your position, you absolutely could. And you might even want to bring the hands onto the heart space. Eyes are closed. Or if it feels more comfortable, you just gaze towards the tip of the nose or gaze to the earth. You could drop the chin to the chest slightly. And often in more like yin style practices, so things that are slower, we say that we practice with attention and intention. So an intention could be a word, it could be a mantra, some kind of statement. In Yoga Nidra, those of you who practice that with me, it's called a sankalpa. Not important what it's called as such. So I'm going to give you a couple. There might be a word that you feel like, oh yeah, like that word. There might be a fully formed sentence that you're like, oh yeah, I like that one. Might be that you think, I don't like any of those. I don't do intentions or I have my own. So all I ask is that you listen, but you decide whether or not you absorb. So these are to do with winter and the winter solstice, this darker time of year. I thank the darkness for the lessons it teaches, but I also thank the light for the opportunities it brings. Winter is my time for rest and renewal. I embrace any winter blues as an opportunity to pause, grow, and practice self-care. My inner light shines bright, even on the darkest of winter days. I'm proud of myself for persevering through the challenges of winter. Take a nice deep breath in. And maybe a sigh out as you just release the hand. So we're going to extend the legs out in front of us now, as long as that feels comfy. And bring the hands behind. So in order to open up the heart space a little bit, we can turn and take the fingertips pointing away from us. And I don't come flat on my hands. Again, this is like all going to depend on how tall your torso is, how long your arms are. So I'm kind of like on the earth, like I've got some crazy claw hands. Just leaning back like that. So we're drawing the shoulder blades together. Then we're going to forget a little bit about upper body. I'm going to take awareness to lower body. So just starting as we breathe in to flex the feet. So curl the toes back towards you, lengthen through the legs. And as you breathe out, point the toes away. It might even be, oh, that gives me a bit of cramp though in my left foot. It might be that you point the toes down towards the ground. So kind of simple movement, but really slow with the breath. If you then want to start putting the hands down and walking backwards and you get a little bit more relaxed in this, just be mindful of not closing through the chest too much. So we're still drawing the shoulder blades back. We breathe in, we flex the feet. Where can you feel that in the legs? And as you breathe out, point the toes away. Where could you feel that? And if there's any other movement that you kind of want to incorporate into that, it could be a wiggling, or should we just call it feet waving? So like you're waving with your feet. Maybe it's bringing the toes together in towards you and then turning onto the outside edges of the feet. So just going to take a couple more breaths. Keep lifting the heart space. And then slowly walk the hands in towards you. I'm going to take the legs out into a straddle position. So you could, again, be on a wall for this. You might sit on something. If you really round back, which is at a natural position, I don't know if anyone's seen the really unflattering images of what it's thought the human body will look like in years to come because of like the home working and how we all are. It's like this flipping alien thing that's like, I'm like, oh yes, that looks lovely. But yeah, you can sit on something if you want to push the hips forwards. If you've got very hypermobile or like overmobile legs, or even if you haven't, you might want to put something behind the knees. So when we fold forward, we're obviously going to push a bit of weight into the backs of the knees. So we don't want to push too hard. If you've got cushions or bolsters, I've left my bolster at the studio. You could absolutely have that in front of you to rest your head on. And as we come down, we're going to flex the feet a little bit and kind of lead with the heart space. So you can feel that in the backs of the legs. And you can absolutely stay there, just maybe gaze to the earth. So that's a bit more active. Or you might decide to take a breath in, and as you breathe out, soften the toes, soften the knees, and you can start curling the chin in towards you, rounding the spine. So it's going to impact some of the same areas of the inside of the leg, but also different ones, depending on whether you flex the feet or whether you decide to relax them, or somewhere in between. So this is kind of our first yin position, should we say. So we're going to take a couple of minutes here. The best thing you can kind of do is spend maybe the first 10 or 20 seconds just finding that sweet spot for you. Do I need more props? Do I need less props? And maybe you come right back to that check-in where we began. So once you feel like you kind of get into that sweet spot position, just come back to, okay, how do I physically feel here? And just, to say, yin is not always comfortable. A reflection of life, which is not always comfortable. So there should be, or there may be, I don't want to say should be, because I'm not telling you how to feel, but there should be some sensation. There may be some sensation. And you're in control of that. So it may be that there's a really little sensation that's more on the side of pleasant. Maybe there's quite a strong sensation that's just allowing you this time to sit with discomfort. Maybe the eyes are closed, there's nothing to see or to really need to pay attention to here. We're paying attention to what's happening inside us, or very closely to the body and to the breath. And it's not only just on the day of winter solstice that different countries, cultures celebrate. So much like the lunar cycle and any other Sabbath, so that could be summer solstice, autumn equinox, Ostara, which is Easter. So there's a few days surrounding the events. So a few days of maybe heightened energy or power. You might feel that, you might not. It might be something you believe in, it might not. Either is fine. And it's thought that the solstice represents, the winter solstice, represents this standstill of the sun. And then a change in direction. So although we're meeting the deepest part of winter, there's also a change in direction as we start to know that we're coming back out of that and we'll be moving to spring. So the meeting of darkness and light. And after we experience the longest day, longest night, in summer and in winter, there's these shifting points. So in summer, we'll have the longest day that then starts to take us into a little bit of darkness as we move towards autumn. In winter, the opposite. And this is the rhythm and rhyme of everything. So, you know, this is the seasons, this is the lunar cycle, this is life itself. Birth, life, death, maybe afterlife, who knows? Last couple of breaths. You can always place the hands to the earth, just to give you that little bit of push up if you need it. Take your time, breathe in as you start to rise upwards. When you get to the top, nice tall spine, breathe out. You might need a couple of breaths to readjust. And then take a position that feels comfortable for you. So that's been kind of external with the legs. So you might want to have something that's more internal. So legs to the side, completely up to you. And we're going to take a mudra here. So a mudra is a hand gesture. All around the kind of elements of, slightly confusing because the elements that we use for the hands are not the same elements that we use in yin for 5-element theory, but they're close enough. And we're going to use fire and earth, which are too. So you're going to take a ring finger on each hand and bring it towards, look, my little finger's like, hey, I'll join in. Bring it towards the center of your palm. And then we take the thumb and place the thumb towards like the middle point of the finger, maybe to the knuckle. Hands turn upwards towards the sky, and we just settle them down and soften off in those 3 spare fingers. Take a breath in, nice and tall. As you breathe out, a little bit of softness, and maybe the eyes close. So this is Surya Mudra. So you might be familiar with Surya, which is sun, from our Surya Namaskar, sun salutations. So this is a warming mudra. So you have to be quite aware if you work with mudras that they are intensely seasonal. So we wouldn't practice, we would practice a water mudra in winter because that's the element, but we wouldn't practice like a cooling water mudra because it's already cold. And we probably would turn away from Surya Mudra in summer. So this is the meeting of thumb, which is fire, earth, which is ring finger. And this is said to promote heat within the body, also to help with circulation, respiration, 2 majorly important things in winter. And on maybe more of a spiritual, energetic level, however you want to see it, it could be the burning away of old things, habits, patterns that we don't want to take with us into another day, another month, another year. So just going to take a couple of minutes here If, you know, for example, another thing to consider is if you have arthritis in the hands, you might need to adjust the position slightly with the hands. And let's think it's the intention that's there. You might focus on the fingers, on the breath. You might come back to a word or an affirmation. It could be, I release X into the fire. Know that you may get distracted. You just journey back to a gentle point of focus. Surya Mudra. One more minute here. And it's there. Just welcome a nice deep breath in. And a breath out. As you release from the mudra, you might want to just stretch and then tense the hands or rotate the wrists. And mudra is quite, you know, an accessible way of working with our energy or our elements. So I'm going to do a kind of last little bit of flowy, juicy movement, and then we're on the ground from there. Now come onto your hands and knees, if that's okay. Got a blanket for myself, for my knees. So just find your way there. And maybe just at first, moving a bit of weight into the hands, spreading the fingers, and then tuck the toes and push the seat back to the heels. So not only for the importance of stimulating through different acupressure points that exist in hands or feet, but it's really important, especially in colder months, to keep circulation going in hands and feet. So just nice and slowly with the breath. You might have your eyes closed, getting into the rhythm. From there, we'll find tabletop. And then as we breathe in, the belly drops. The shoulders roll back slightly as the heart opens. As we breathe out, we arch the spine up towards the sky. So a couple more like that, cat and cow. And even that simple movement is really good for the kidneys and the gallbladder. So there are organs related to winter. So kidneys exist in the back. So forward folding, heart opening, which is essentially what we're doing through this just one movement, really simply. Really supportive. And from there, you might just start to make some circles, or if you feel low on energy, you might sit back and pop yourself in child's pose for a few breaths. So completely up to you. If your knees are, you know, relatively okay, and I don't say that as a mocking thing, like one of my knees is not relatively okay. That's like one of the top sort of injuries that we get in yoga. And you could always point the toes up towards the sky and then drop the feet back down. So just enjoy like a little bit of juicy movement. So in this element of free flowing, just for these moments with the breath, and almost like we don't have a care in the world, this is it. This is all that exists, this part of breath and body, and enjoying it. And then let's pop back into a child's pose if that suits. So you could slide the knees wide, or you could bring the knees together. Both have benefits for the body. You might hug your bolster, that can feel particularly yummy. Or if you've got cushions, you might come onto one side of the head or face if you prefer. Again, take your time. What do you need for your version of this? If the answer is, I need something else than this position because I don't like it, it doesn't feel nice, roll onto the back instead. Because we're coming there next anyway, and you can draw the knees in towards you. You can even put a strap across the shins, so that's like a reverse kind of child's pose position. And maybe an opportunity just to pause. Could be to come back to where we began, checking in, noticing. Might even notice those, it's weird to describe, maybe it's just a me thing, I don't know, where you kind of noticed that, oh, for a moment there, like I had nothing on my mind. There was just spaciousness, just these snippets. And in the Yoga Sutras, so these kind of threads of wisdom in old yogic texts, I don't want to say goal, but that is a word that is used, or in translation, I guess, is something called samadhi or anand, which is bliss. And probably not something that exists as a whole and for a long period of time, but maybe finding these small pockets of samadhi in our everyday life. Where do we feel most joyful? Where do you have that feeling of like, oh, yes. We take one more minute here, and you don't have to answer anything that I ask. Most of the time, this is just my brain coming out my mouth. Just feeling this comfortable heaviness of the bones as they start to soften. And the kidney meridian line is one of the longest in the body, so it comes all the way from foot up to mouth, so into tongue. So kind of need a bit of everything when we're working with the kidney line. As nice and slowly use the hands, perhaps you're not already lifted out of your child's pose, just to start to reluctantly come up. Give yourself a few deep breaths. And from here, we're going to come onto the back of the body. So if you feel like you need a sip of a drink, have your strap next to you, like within reaching distance. I think we'll do just a little bit of leg work. We might have to leg work like we're at the gym. Not that kind of leg work, people. Haven't done that kind of leg work since I was in my 20s. So I have a strap close by. We may have to cut it a little bit shorter because you know that I classically love to overplan everything. Some would say I just have a lot to say, but I don't know about that. So make your way down onto your back. Do what you need to do there. So you might feel like you need a stretch out or draw the knees in and have a little roll around. So, just be guided by you. And we're going to take a slightly shorter version of it. So if you don't have a strap or you don't like using straps, then you could perhaps not. It's better to use a strap when we're practicing leg to the sky for a longer period of time. So just bringing the feet to the earth. Spine relaxes to the earth. You might have something under the back of the head to tuck the chin to the chest. That's your call. And keep that left foot on the earth. So that's going to be our support foot. Bring that right knee in towards you. You might just catch hold of the back of the right thigh and then slowly start to extend the foot up towards the sky. So you could be holding the back of the leg. If you like working with a strap, take it around the arch of the foot. Bring the elbows to the earth. And rather than wrapping the strap around your hands, we're just going to really gently be holding it. There's different positions here. So you could be really gently, as we're taking a short time here, be drawing the knee in towards you. So like you're bringing the thigh towards the belly. You could be taking the heel away from you. If you're hypermobile, I would say no to taking the heel away from you. Or if you're going to do that, bend the knee, because you don't want to push too much into the back of your knee. But you know your body. You find the position that works best for you. Just softening into the fingers, the elbows, the shoulders, the face. So we'd normally take a couple of minutes here. We're going to take probably a minute and a half on each side. But you can absolutely take anything from any of the practices and spend shorter time there, longer time there. And the kidneys are also said to house not only like our vital life essence, but our willpower. So in Chinese medicine, everything is linked. It's not like emotions are different to body, different to energy. It's all linked together. So interesting to kind of think about willpower as we come towards my favorite time of year, New Year's resolutions. Let's all resolve to be something else. Take a breath in, and as you breathe out, just bend that knee, lower the foot to the earth. Do what you need to do. Whether that's stretch out, draw in, nothing at all. And some people love resolutions, and you know what? That's absolutely fine. I am not the judge and jury of everything. And resolutions work for some people, or maybe it's reframing it to call it a goal or a manifestation or something like that. But just being mindful as we are at that point of the year where in a few weeks we're going to see all of this information, and of course I could go on about this, couldn't I? We're going to see marketing information that's going to offer us things because we need to be better versions of ourselves and all of this kind of thing. Be mindful of the pressure that you put on yourself. So maybe just small steps. Maybe mine is literally, when I think about journaling, I'm like, oh yes, 10 pages a day and a watercolor picture to go with it. I follow a lady who journals online, and gosh, she has the most beautiful pages. But I know that's not realistic. So maybe mine is like, I'm going to write 4 lines in my journal, and that's it. And that's good enough. Let's start to bring our left knee in towards us, right foot to the earth. Same thing here. You could hold on to the back of the leg. You could use your strap. You decide. And extending when it feels right, in the way that feels right. So this energy of stimulating the kidneys is helpful for a lot of things. But one of those is that willpower and trust. So the emotion of winter is fear and sadness. It's a darker time, but just trusting ourselves. Trusting that we make the best decisions for ourselves. And you know what? Sometimes when we don't, that's not the end of the world. And trusting in that inner light. So in yoga, we might say it's Atman. So this energy that is everywhere. You might just refer to it as your inner source, your inner light. For you, it may be a god of your choosing. So something that internally and externally guides us. Nice deep breath in. And as you breathe out, just releasing. Do what feels best for you there. And our kidneys, like many other organs, but we're talking about kidneys in winter, they need nourishment, they need warmth. Our bodies need to be nourished by warmer foods. Our minds might like to be nourished by certain things. So for some people, that may be being creative, maybe music. Our bodies might like to be nourished with rest or with movement. So really important to think how we are. It's called self-care, but it's like the third time. I don't like that word. Should I just rewrite my own dictionary? I think there's some words that can bring up different meanings for different people. And sometimes self-care brings up like, oh, well, if I'm not doing any of those things, that must just mean that I don't care about myself, which isn't true. So maybe nourishment is a better word. What do we do to nourish ourselves? And self-care becomes like another task sometimes, doesn't it? Like, oh God, I better make time to have a bath and, take care of myself. And we don't want that. We want it to be something that's part of a routine. And it's just about being kind to ourselves. So just before we head into Shavasana, I'm going to come into a reclined butterfly position. So knees come wide, soles of the feet, or maybe just the toes tickle. Again, you could use a bolster, you could use blocks here. You're going to spend slightly less time. If it's not comfy for you, you could use a wall and rest the legs on a wall. If it's something that you just don't enjoy, you could just take a lying down straddle position. So just take the legs out really wide and let the toes turn out nice and wide. So the toes is gonna, impact the roll out of your knees and your hips. And the inner lines of the legs are where our kidney lines or all of our yin lines are. So not literally, well, yes, inside the body, but they're not literally inside because this is more of an energetic thing. And also the inner side. Place the arms where you feel comfortable. Maybe closing down the eyes, as we know we start to approach the end of our practice as we come to Shavasana, but we're spending these next minutes in our practice being present. And there's a gentle back bend here, very gentle. A nice opening of the heart, both really good for the kidneys. Also that inner line of the legs. And maybe with the eyes closed, you just notice what you can hear. So if you've got the playlist on, it might instantly be the music. For me, I just noticed I've got a window open in the room that I'm in. I can just hear some rustling of the trees outside. And our sense organ connected to winter is hearing, ears. Listening. Not just to others, but listening to ourselves, what we need, what our body needs, what our mind needs. And from here, I'm just going to take this into a twist. So just starting to roll your left leg over onto the right and make any kind of adjustment that you need there. Keep the chest wide and open if you can. You could stack the knees, you could wrap the lower legs or even the upper legs into what we call twisted roots, if that is comfortable for you. Softening through the head and the face. You might even take awareness to the tip of your tongue. So our kidney line comes all the way to the root of the tongue. Notice where the tongue is in the mouth. Moisture of the mouth, the teeth, the gums. We're not clenching teeth. A softening of the jaw, the face, the shoulders. Gently bring the knees back to center. You might have a little press down and a shuffle of the hips and the bum to help you turn them to the opposite direction. And same thing there when you get there. It doesn't have to be the same position as the other side. So you might wrap them. You might extend them. Explore what feels best. Be curious. With each exhale breath, there's this comfortable heaviness as we settle. No need to hold, tense, grasp. Gently moving back to center. And your opportunity here to have a wiggle, a little move, a gentle tap. So that's not something that I teach a lot or explore, but a lot of tapping techniques, especially around the sternum and the heart place, are very soothing. You might just have a big breath. And set yourself up for Shavasana. What's the most comfortable position for you? Back of body, side of body, come into a seat, covering with a blanket, using props. So take your time. I'm going to take about another 30 seconds here to just, allow you to have that time to settle. And I would encourage you and invite you to close the eyes, but equally I encourage and invite you to do what feels best for you. Just take awareness to the legs and the feet. Is there any distraction there, or is everything as best as it can be just so there? Awareness to the arms and to the hands. Is everything just kind of right there? Your opportunity, if needs be, to make any final adjustments, but you may have found your sweet spot. Does the back of the body feel okay? Upper, mid, and lower spine. The front of the body, around the chest, the belly, the ribs. Does everything feel okay for you there? The head and the face. Sometimes, it's just that little strand of hair or something that we may just need to push to the side. Awareness to the tip of the tongue, where the tongue is in the mouth, softening into the jaw, the cheeks, the shoulders, the fingertips, the front, the back, the sides of the body. Nothing else to do. Being in this space is enough. Each breath is enough. You are enough. If you had an intention or anything like that, you might want to repeat it. Maybe it's a word: rest, growth. Maybe it's this balance of light and darkness, strength and softness. And as best you can, just for another minute or so, letting yourself drift off into Shavasana. A cycle of our practice complete, ending in the deepest time of rest, Shavasana. just going to read you a little something that I found. Very short winter solstice blessing. May the longest night and the shortest day bring rest to your mind and soul, I pray. May you find guidance and may you find peace as the cycle of light will slowly increase. Embrace the magic that darkness bears. Breathe deep in the chill and shift in the airs. May you always be blessed with the light from within, and may well-being be yours as we watch a new cycle begin. Perhaps take a nice deep breath in through the nose, let it sigh out of the mouth. And you are more than welcome to just stay where you are. In times when you feel that you don't have time for rest, maybe that's when you need just to honor a couple more moments. If you want to, then you could roll over to the side of the body, just nice and slowly. You might decide to stay there, just kind of curled up in your little ball. You might decide that you press yourself up to you. And then find whatever is the comfortable seat for you there. Maybe you bring hands onto heart space. You could join the palms if Anjali Mudra is something that you like and you're familiar with. And as you breathe out, maybe you drop the chin to the chest, or you just take awareness to the heart space. Acknowledge yourself. Thank yourself for being here, body, breath, mind, perhaps spirit or soul, if that's your belief. We acknowledge and thank each other, our community, for sharing this time, this space. And I bow to you. Thank you for trusting me to guide you through this experience this Sunday evening. I hope you have a good night's sleep. I hope you have some rest or whatever it is that you need, and enjoy the time of solstice. The light and dark in me honors the light and dark within you. Namaste.